Well, here we go. Season on the line. Game number 5 coming your way from Ball Arena in Denver, Colorado. Wild down 3-1 in the series. And to help set the stage, we bring in Pat Micheletti, getting ready for that 7-10 puck drop. As everything, it all boils down to this, Patrick. If they lose tonight, they put forth another effort like they did in game 4. It's going to be over quick, and it's going to be like ripping off a Band-Aid. I think you and I are both along the same lines. We hope this isn't the end of the line. We hope that we see more of game 3 than what we saw in game 4.
Yeah, obviously, nobody in the organization was happy with the results in the previous game. Okay, that being said, you've got to forget about it. They know they can play with these guys, and hopefully, we're going to see a better performance tonight, and I really believe that we will. Now, whether that results in a win or not, we're going to have to wait and see. But I certainly expect them to come out and play a better game tonight.
We did Wild Fan Line following the 5-2 loss in game 4. And one of the lightning rods was not only the fact that the Wild were outshot by such a wide margin for the
Yeah.
first half of that hockey game, but the top 6 and Matt Boldy in particular missing in action. What happened to those guys, to Matt Boldy? Was it something that they weren't doing? Was it something the Avalanche was doing? What happened to these guys in that pretty critical game?
Yeah, well, I think up the middle was a big problem. You saw Kaprizov, you saw Boldy. They were carrying the puck way too much, and those guys are goal scorers. They don't need to do the bulk of the work. Their bulk of the work happens when they get the puck in good scoring areas and can finish. And I really think and I'm not gonna just blame the centers. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, right? Getting the D involved, all of that stuff. But obviously, who we point to are the guys that are scoring. Well, part of the problem is if they have the puck less, something good is happening then. And 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 um and so I hope to see a little bit more involvement, from other guys that can really help get these guys in a position to finish. And if they can do that tonight, I think things will be a lot better for the team.
One thing the Wild definitely have going for them in their favor, and again, we talked about this after game 4, there was a lot of negatives coming out of that game, but the
Yeah.
one positive was the guy between the pipes, Jesper Wallstedt.
Oh,
When he's on his game and he's arrogant and confident and just that steady, calming influence between the pipes, you got a shot. And if he shows up tonight, they've got a shot.
well, uh, we can certainly get into all the positives, after the season and all that, whenever that season ends. Hopefully not tonight. But, one shining star that we can talk about right now is Jesper Volstead and where he's going to bring this team into the future. I think he's a star in the making. And, he will rise. His play in this playoffs has really opened a lot of eyes around the league. And I've, with him between the pipes, Kevin, I know you feel this way. Boy, do we feel good about ourselves. And so, he's going to be obviously a key factor tonight also.
Looking at the morning skate, it was an optional, so there wasn't a lot to glean from that. And I don't know what changes really John Hines could make anyway. Shortly, they'll be on the ice here, getting ready for game number 5 in their pregame skate, leading into the drop of the puck. But I don't know that I think that anything really major is going to happen. I know you'd really like to see Height jump into the lineup. I don't think
Yeah.
it's going to happen tonight.
Yeah, I've changed a little bit on that now. I don't think you put him in now. If it was a game 1 or game 2 starting a new series and a guy needed a rest, and hey, let's see maybe what this guy can do. For sure. But now we're in total elimination. I don't think it'd be fair to him to put him in that circumstance now. But no, I don't see any changes, Kevin. And quite frankly, I'll go back to the game 3. They beat them 5-1. They thoroughly dominated with that same lineup. Why can't they do it again? They can do it again. They did not have a good game. And credit Colorado. Colorado came out in game 4 and said, okay, we're going to flip the script. And remember, you and I talked about going into that game, it was all going to be who could gain that momentum right from the beginning. The Wild had it going into the game. Colorado didn't. Colorado grabbed it and stuck with it the whole game. I see the same scenario tonight. Can Minnesota come out with a great start, dictate the game, and then let's see what happens? And so that's the way I'm kind of looking at it. So from a lineup perspective, got to go with the same group and let them uh, respond to what happened the last game.
That includes Danila Yurov. Again, I don't think anything's
Yeah,
going to change, but Rusin
no,
threw out the stat that they were outshot
yeah, it
20-0
was not a
when
good game.
Yurov was
Yeah,
out there.
it
5
wasn't
on 5
good.
even streak.
Yeah, it wasn't good. I beg to see what the stats were in game 3. Throw those out there. And I think you'd see different numbers, right? It was a bad game. I don't think we need to harp on it. They know it. They know they got to play better tonight. And I expect a better game out of that line for sure tonight.
One thing that probably doesn't have a huge impact on tonight, but Josh Manson was not ejected from game number 4.
Yeah.
Ended up playing it out. It got the double minor. Now we find out after the fact he's been fined $5,000 by the National Hockey League. What did you make of that? And do you expect any residual effect from having Manson in the lineup here for game number 5?
Well, regardless, I think I expect the same lineup that Colorado put out in Game 4 tonight in Game 5. And guess what? Makar is still banged up. Ashawn is still a young rookie. Manson is banged up. One of the, I thought, and Minnesota couldn't get to their game. And so if they can get to their game, I expect them to pound them and pound them and pound them. And they have to do that. And you will see that D break down and panic a little bit. And that is a must tonight for Minnesota to get on the forecheck, pound their defensemen, and do it all night long. And I think you'll see a little different result tonight.
That's the big thing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
when you got the Felinos, you've got Sturm, you've got Trenyan,
Well,
and
you
they're
got
all going to be
all
in
of
the
them.
lineup.
All of them are
They've got to
capable.
be battering rams.
Yes, they do. You don't have to kill them. You just have to in every line. Hey, Johansson in Europe, get in there, hit them every time because eventually they wear down, they panic. And any decor would. So I think it's imperative that Minnesota do that tonight.
How important is it also to get traffic in front of? I don't care if it's Wedgwood or
Yeah,
Blackwood. They were a little too comfortable, especially in game 4. Blackwood should have been rusty. The Wild
yeah,
didn't give him enough to think about, especially the first half of that hockey game. You got to throw everything at him tonight, right? And get
yeah.
into his face.
Well, what happens when that happens? Minnesota scores. I mean, we've
Yep.
seen it. So continue to do that. Fight for it. And again, the Colorado D are not big imposing creatures that you are afraid to do that, right? That you're a little nervous. You've got to be able to do that. Minnesota can do that, and they should do that. And another key factor going into tonight, Kevin, you hit it right on the head.
So if you look at it in the grand scheme of things, it feels like a daunting task. You're going up against the number 1 team in hockey, and now you're faced with the task of beating them 3 straight. But not tonight, Patrick.
No,
1 win. That's what
yeah.
you need. 1 win. How do you get that message through? Don't look at the big picture. Look at the here and now. You win 1 game, you live to see another day.
Well, don't put them on a pedestal. Don't be afraid. Have that attitude of, yeah, I'm going to go out and I'm going up against you, and I'm going to beat you. That's the attitude that you have to have. And the things that we talked about, Kevin, you gotta go in with some swagger, and you got to do the things that we talked about. And if they do that, and if they come ready to play, Minnesota's a heck of a team, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
Minnesota is a really good team. They know and they believe that. So, this series is not over yet.
I think that's in closing, that's the biggest thing I would take away from this is, you can skate with this team.
Yes.
You can beat them. They're not impenetrable. This isn't the 85 Edmonton Oilers. You can go to Ball Arena and get a victory if you play the right way. That's a big if, because
Yeah.
I don't know what brain fog is, but they had it in game 4. You can't have brain fog in game 5.
Well, and let's not forget, Minnesota is a top 5 team in the league that is being talked about winning the Stanley Cup. I think the winner of this wins the Stanley Cup, and so don't look at yourselves as underdogs in this. You are. This is not the Minnesota Wild of 5 years ago when there wasn't talent and depth and all of that. This is a really, really good team. So you should not, and the fans should not go into this game as there's no way we can beat them because we're this, that, or the other thing. This is a heck of a team, and they are very capable of beating the Colorado Avalanche tonight, one game at a time, Kevin.
And I hope they get it done. Win, lose, or draw. We'll be back with Wild Fan Line after the Grand Casino post-game show.
Yep.
And Patrick, I very much look forward to talking to you then again.
Can't wait, Kevin. Let's get a win.
There you go. Pat Micheletti joining us from Parts Unknown. He'll be watching Game 5 and listening to it. Of course, hashtag new TV, because we've got Joe and Tom coming up from Ball Arena here in a matter of moments. Puck drop coming up at 7:10 here in the Central Time Zone. Quick break and then more pregame fun coming your way. You're listening to Wild Hockey on KFAN.